Hello and welcome to another episode of Colivers Club, powered by Macmelon. In this episode, we are going to talk with Johnny Ilca. We met him in Bansko when we were doing a talk about colivings, and he approached us and was like, "Oh, guys, I have to talk with you a lot." So it was a really interesting person to meet there.
Yeah, at that time he was planning to open a Coliving Transylvania, and then he was working on Valentina Coliving in Bansko, and yeah, he has moved a lot in the Coliving world. And now I think he's a consultant at the moment, and yeah, a lot of interesting topics to talk with him. So enjoy the chapter, and see you soon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Colivers Club, powered by Melon. I'm your host, Cesar Alberca, and I'm here today
with Johnny Ilca.
Nice. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Been quite a hectic few days. Now we're here in Bansko. Nomad Fest is going on right now, so there's a lot of events, a lot of nomads, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's my first time in Bansko and first time in the Nomad Fest, and it's just amazing. It's the first official day of the event. I'm just having a blast.
Yeah, you're meeting lots of digital nomads, huh?
Yeah, and the activities and everything is so cool.
Nice.
But yeah, going back to you, you are community manager of Valentina Heights, where we are right now. It's a very cool co-living. It includes a spa, a jacuzzi, a pool, and there's a lot of activities, right? The other day we were even playing board games here in this co-working area. Yeah, can you tell us more about your role as a community manager in Valentina Heights?
Yeah, so like a community manager and many other co-living spaces, the main role is to try to build a connection between the residents. And what that means is, facilitating events, giving them tours when they arrive here, and making them feel comfortable because, when you arrive in a new place, maybe you don't know how things are done or where you need to find certain other, I don't know, amenities. So it's always good to, help them feel welcome, give them a tour, and a face to which they can look to if they need help with anything. So we help answer questions if something's broken, or we direct them to the right person if we need to. And more specifically, I also help with some of the marketing efforts. So I help make some content for Instagram, for social media, for YouTube, or whatever. I also helped with doing some automation for, let's say, client acquisition.
Oh.
A lot of the processes were kind of manual. So I helped by setting up a system where they can automatically see our availability, automatically book a room, automatically pay, and it helps minimize some of the time that we have to spend on the logistical aspects, which it can add up.
Yeah, and running a co-living must not be easy. And you also had experience running your own co-livings. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah. So I had 2 co-living spaces in the past. My first one was in Cluj-Napoca, Romania, and it was a 4-bedroom apartment, about 190 square meters. And what made it really a co-living space was it had a dedicated room for co-working. And for me, that's really important because then you don't have to work in your bedroom, you don't have to do meetings in your bedroom. And for me, it's super important to have this kind of separation between work and leisure. And when I'm in my bedroom, it's really hard to stay focused on work. I'm sure other people who work remotely can understand. And one of the places where you can stay focused is a nice co-working space, even if it's just like an office room, or a place like a little corner where you have a dedicated desk. In my case, we had like a co-working space. We actually had other people that weren't staying there work there as well.
Oh, cool.
So we had like the capacity to have about 6 people working there at the same time. We had office chairs, and it had that kind of co-working kind of
But it
vibe.
was a small setup, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's maybe about the size of this room here,
Okay.
maybe a little bit bigger actually. And I remember when I first found that space, it was unfurnished and needed a little bit of renovation. Luckily, the owner of the property was he had the right mindset, and he was a great person to work with.
Nice.
And he offered to furnish it, and he took my input as well. So we went to, the what was the store, Jisk at the time. And he asked me, okay, what kind of mattresses do you think I should get, or what kind of bed frames, what kind of furniture, what kind of closets, and should we make this into another bedroom, or do you want to use something else? And I said, no. I'm going to use this as a co-working space. I don't want to make it a bedroom. We could have had 5 bedrooms, right? But instead, I chose to have 4 bedrooms, and then one of those rooms to be the co-working space.
Yeah.
And one of the other small things was like it was like a very open space type of layout. And there was an area where we had like a little living room, let's say, a little chill out room. And we could have put like a futon with a TV. And the owner was like, well, do you want me to put a TV here? And I was like, no. Let's put a futon, a coffee table, and another futon. That way people face each other and they can chit chat and hang out. I personally really hate it when there's like too many TVs in around me. Because nowadays a lot of living spaces are way too focused on the TV.
Yeah, in my house I don't have a TV, and people are like, "Where's the TV?" And I don't know, I don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you look at other living rooms for typical houses, you'll see that the sofas are all kind of centered around the TV.
Yeah.
And it doesn't facilitate communication, connection, and that sort of thing.
That's true. That's a very good point. Huh.
Yeah, so that's my first co-living space in Cluj. I ran that for about 3 years. But as you can imagine, a 4-bedroom apartment is not necessarily like a full-fledged co-living space. I'd like to call it like a MVP, a minimum viable product. And I initially started that because I was inspired by another co-living space, which wasn't officially a co-living space when I first stayed there. And I thought that the co-living concept was so amazing. I thought it was nice, and I wanted to kind of get more involved with that and to make my own so I can get more experience. And I would say that it was pretty successful, actually. But eventually after doing it for 3 years, I outgrew it. And so I closed it down. And because it was so small, I couldn't afford to manage, like to pay a community manager to be there and to manage it, because you don't get the scale that you need in order to be able to afford that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So I did that, and then traveled around for a few years with my wife. We stayed in various co-living spaces to kind of see what other co-living spaces are like. So we went to different co-living spaces, like one in Ukraine before the war. We went to another one in Lisbon not too long ago, one in Greece, a few here in Bansko. So we got to see different co-living spaces. Some were good, some were not so good. Some were not even what I would consider co-living.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like nowadays you just slap the name co-living to whatever, and no, not really.
Yeah.
That's why MapMelon is a great platform to find co-livings that are really community oriented, which I think is the main aspect of what a co-living means to me, at least.
Are you a remote worker or digital nomad looking for the perfect co-living experience? Meet MapMelon, your all-in-one platform for booking community-focused co-livings with exclusive deals and promotions. With co-livings all around the world, MapMelon offers a lot of options for every budget and lifestyle. You can also track your friends' plans and share your own, and never miss out on an opportunity to reconnect. And finally, you can also stay up to date with the latest events, workshops, and job opportunities in the co-living community. So sign up today, discover your next co-living, and join a global network of Colivers.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like, it's all about the community, it's about the people.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that sense of connection, then I don't think it's a co-living. Like, even when I was in college, I was staying in an apartment complex. It was a serviced apartment, and we had all the amenities of a co-living, like big common areas, stuff like that, but there wasn't a dedicated community manager to make events and to help people get out of their room, really, and to build that connection. So I'm sure they could have just slapped co-living on there, but I'm glad they didn't. So yeah, we traveled around for a bit, and then not too long ago, like a year and a half ago, we ended up finding this property in Sibiu, Romania, which
where
was
where you have roots.
Well, I have Romanian roots, but not specifically in that city.
Ah, okay. Well, in general, in Romania, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we visited actually throughout these years between when I opened my first one and my second one. I viewed a lot of properties. Like, I would go on real estate websites. I would call up all these real estate agents, and I was doing like 2 or 3 viewings per day for like a month.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did this kind of thing in some of the biggest major cities in Romania, like Bucharest, Cluj, Arad, Timișoara. Where else? Yeah, those are the main ones. Bucharest obviously is the capital, so it had the most amount of potential. But we didn't necessarily find anything that was very suitable. We did find one in Bucharest that was almost there, but required a big investment of funds to renovate it to make it a proper co-living.
Yeah, okay.
Although the building was kind of set up in the right way. But yeah, so we did our research, we looked at a lot of properties, and then we came across this one in Sibiu, which used to be a small hotel. And it looked very appealing. Like it was a 13-bedroom like building, and each bedroom had its own private bathroom.
Okay.
There were big common spaces on the ground floor, which we turned into a co-working space. It had a very nice garden in the back. And in the basement, which used to be like a wine cellar, we turned it into like an event space. So we had parties
that's amazing.
and like art events. So we did like wine and painting, or board game nights, or chess tournaments, and all sorts of fun events in the basement. I think it had the right vibe because it had those, basement vibes. But unfortunately, we didn't keep that co-living open for too long. We only had it open for about 9 months. And there's, a lot of reasons for that, which I can go into.
Yeah, for sure.
And if I were to quickly summarize it, I would say it's the finances weren't necessarily good. And so 3 things. The finances were not necessarily good. The people that we worked with, so the owners of the property, were not the right fit. And then the last thing was we had some troubles with the neighbor's dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And financially wise, it's just the rent was too high. But in regards to the relationship we had with the owner of the property, I think they had the wrong mindset, and they were much more traditionally minded, and they didn't understand this concept of co-living, sharing spaces, living with other people. To them, it was very weird and foreign to live with your clients.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So that's just like an example of one of the things we had, but we had a bunch of problems down the road with them that ended up affecting us. It added up and ended up affecting us quite a bit. But to be honest, what affected me the most was the neighbor's dog. Oh my God. So in Romania, there is no law that prohibits or puts responsibility on a dog owner if they cause a disturbance to the peace. Because of course, there's laws in many places that say you cannot make noises between a certain time interval, above a certain decibel amount, stuff like that. But there's nothing in the law in Romania that
About
stated
dogs.
that they have to be, that they are responsible for their dogs making noises.
Yeah, and it was not a Chihuahua, no?
No, I mean, it wasn't even a big dog. That's
No,
the thing.
really?
It was like a medium-sized dog, I would say. Yeah. But like, okay, so the neighbor's yard was essentially just concrete. And this poor dog was chained up in the corner of this concrete yard. He was never taken out for walks, never even washed. Like, he was so dirty, this poor thing. And the neighbor kept it, even though it barked like nonstop, because he said it was a guard dog.
So medium-sized dog that is chained to a corner, right?
Yeah.
And is the guard dog.
A guard dog, even though it barks all the time. How does it guard anything?
Oh.
Trust me, we tried everything, like everything. And we were really nice with the neighbors at first. We tried to, we gave the dog treats. We offered to take it out for walks. We talked really nicely with them. But imagine, like, if you wake up and the first thing you hear is a dog barking, it sets the mood for the whole day.
Yeah, and the last thing you hear is the dog barking, and it goes on and on and on for 9 months, no?
Yeah,
It must
man.
be...
It really started affecting me mentally. And we tried different strategies to try to resolve this issue. And eventually, I resorted to writing an official letter, putting it in their mailbox, and threatening to sue them. And after I did that, the dog was actually not barking for a few days. And I'm not sure what they did.
Maybe they read the letter to the dog, no? And
Yeah,
the dog was
right.
like super scared, like, oh no.
No, I think what so we just asked them to literally take the dog out for a walk 2 times a day. And when they did, it didn't bark as much.
Oh,
Because literally the dog just wanted...
surprise.
I know, right? That dog just needed some attention and needed to be taken out for walks. Like, it's not that complicated, but
And also it's interesting to me because co-living dogs, I mean, if I'm going to be reincarnated, I want to be reincarnated as a co-living dog, You get so many treats from so many people every day. Like, that dog would be so happy if it was allowed to go to the co-living or to stay with you guys, or I don't know.
Yeah. And
but
you know,
they choose to do this to make the animals suffer
Yeah,
and
man.
also make the business suffer, right?
Yeah, it
Because-
did. So it made our business suffer, not just like because of me, but like 3 of our 13 bedrooms, you can hear the dog barking from the bedroom. Like in the bedroom that I was sleeping in, I couldn't hear the dog bark, but you know, in the bathroom, I could easily hear the dog barking. So, you know, the first thing I would hear when I sit on the toilet in the morning is this dog barking. I couldn't even use the bathroom in peace, you know? And so there were 3 bedrooms that were affected. The whole garden was affected. Like you couldn't do yoga, you couldn't like
meditation,
you
like
couldn't meditate. And it was a beautiful garden. It was such a beautiful garden. Like it had some thought put into it. There was like landscaping done with some nice plants and shaded trees. Like it was amazing. But when you sit down to do some yoga, the dog starts barking and it was just ruining everything.
yeah.
And I measured it too. Like I had a decibel measuring tool
Oh no.
and it would exceed
An Excel sheet as well with
yeah.
Really? Oh wow, okay.
And it would exceed 90 decibels like regularly. So 90 decibels is like the volume that we hear from like a stage at a festival or something. Not right in front of the speakers, maybe far off.
Yeah, but it's still
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a constant sound either. It was more like a all of a sudden high pitch sound, and then it would
Yeah.
stop and it would high pitch, you know, because that's how dogs bark. And then it affected the co-working space as well. We had a lot of people complain that it was hard to focus in the co-working space because of the dog that was barking. And like honestly, it started affecting me so much that I think it started negatively impacting the way I communicated with my residents, with the owners of the property, and just made my day so bad. Like
Oh no.
I would always wake up in a bad mood. And we realized how much it was affecting me when, like I said, like we threatened to sue them. We wrote that letter, we put it in their mailbox, and it didn't bark for a few days. And my wife and the cleaning lady noticed that I was whistling, which I usually do when I'm in a good mood. You know, I was just whistling because I was having, I don't know, I was in a good mood. And they quickly pointed it out because it was a subconscious thing that I was doing. They quickly pointed it out and they were like, you know why you're whistling? Because the dog's not barking today. I was like,
Oh.
wow, holy crap. You are so right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was mostly those 3 things that kind of added up. And I really think that if we would have been able to resolve these issues, and if we stayed in business for longer than 1 year, it would have been a very successful business. Because just like with any business, like the first year is always going to be the hardest,
Yeah,
and
for
you
sure.
can't expect to be profitable instantly. And we kind of expected that. But these were problems that we just couldn't resolve.
Yeah.
And it
Also
just,
foresee, you know, like
Yeah.
how can you foresee that?
yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't realize that a dog like this was gonna start affecting us so much. Like,
Oh, no.
and the reason it wasn't a problem in the past when they were running it as a small hotel was because most of their residents, or I should say their clients, they were staying short term.
Yeah, so they wouldn't care as much.
Exactly. And they were like, okay, I'll deal with it with a few days, a week maximum, and then I'll leave, you know, it's
Yeah.
fine. But when you stay there a month, 2, 3, 9, like
Yeah, it's constant. I get it. Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, for those reasons, we essentially decided to close it down and move on. It just wasn't worth it. And now, fast forward to where we are today. I looked for other opportunities in the co-living industry as a community manager, because I feel like that's where my skills really shine. I like hosting events. I like connecting with people. I like giving them tours. I like the face-to-face interaction aspects. And although I'm still good with like some of the automating processes type of thing, maybe even the technical aspects like making a website, like I made the landing page, I made the website and stuff like that. Also content creation. Although I'm pretty good with that kind of stuff, I think where I really shine is like the community management aspect. And here where we are now at Coliving Valentina Heights, the property manager, they knew about me before, and this place was also ran as a hotel. And then they transitioned more towards accommodating for digital nomads, so people who stay at least 1 month.
Mhm.
And they felt like that something was missing. So they decided eventually to turn it into a co-living space. But to turn a hotel into a co-living space, you got to see things in a very specific way. You got to have experience in co-living, and you got to understand the needs of people who want to stay in co-living spaces.
Also make some changes, I guess. No?
Yes. And one of the changes, or a few of the changes, I guess, the first example that I can think of is this space where we are now. So this used to be like a bar, restaurant type of thing. And now they turned it into a co-working space where you can sit down with nice ergonomic seating like we're using now.
Yeah, it's super nice.
Yeah. And you can actually sit down and work and focus. Because a lot of people who stay in co-living spaces are people who work remotely and they need a good place to be able to work.
Ergonomics, very
Yeah.
important.
Oh my God, it's one of the biggest problems. I just went to a talk earlier today, and I forgot who was talking, but she was saying that ergonomics is super important.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree because I had back problems in my
Yeah, I
past.
was going to mention that we talked about ergonomics a little bit before this show, and yeah, can you tell us a little bit about your back story?
Yeah, so it started from back issues,
Yeah.
let's say. I grew up in the US, in the suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona. And although my situation is a little unique because, you know, growing up, I traveled a lot with my family, and having a Romanian background, speaking Romanian at home, we had a lot of exposure to this European culture. And when we were young, we would go to Romania, do trips throughout Europe, and stay in Romania and Europe for like the whole summer. So I had a lot of exposure to Europe in general. And being Romanian as well, it was pretty easy for me to know where to go next when I wanted to leave the US. And I wanted to leave because essentially I was sitting too much. I really had some severe back issues. I was working in the office, I was driving everywhere. I wasn't walking anywhere because in the US, it's most places in the US, it's just suburbs and you don't walk. It's
Yeah,
weird.
you need a car to go anywhere.
Anywhere. Groceries, the park, like anything, really. So at one point, my back was getting so bad that like it was pinching, like I was having a pinched nerve in my lower right back from this issue.
Me too, man.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah, and I had
It's
this like,
constant.
and I had this like sharp stinging pain
Mm.
down the side of my leg and in my hand. And it got really bad one day. I remember waking up, and the car I was driving at the time was a stick shift car. And I remember like sitting at the steering wheel and starting to drive. I couldn't use my index finger because the pain was so strong and sharp in just my index finger, like right at the point of my index finger. It was like a needle just being pushed under your nail. Like it hurt so much. So I was driving like awkwardly.
Yeah.
I got to the office, I sat down at my desk, and then I started using my mouse without my index finger. But then when I started to type, I was like, you know what?
What am I doing? You know, like.
What is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just got up, and at this point, like my manager and my coworkers kind of knew that I was having back issues, and I already talked about it for a long time. I asked to work less hours, which helped a lot, actually alleviate the pain. But in this period of time, it was when I was working at Amazon, and it was around like Thanksgiving, Black Friday type of thing. And you can imagine like Amazon is super busy. That's their busy season.
Mm.
And so they had mandatory overtime. And that's what really pushed me over the edge. Like I couldn't function. I couldn't get work done. And at that point, when I sat down to try to type, and I couldn't use my index finger to type. No.
Yeah, because you're also making these accommodations for what? You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's
Life
your
is-
health, your
Yeah.
body.
Life is too short to suffer like that, you know, for what? For money? Like, no, it's not worth it. So I went to my manager. I remember going to my manager, and I just like broke out crying, and I just said like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm gonna go home, and I'm not gonna come back until my pain is fixed, until my problem is no longer a problem. And I essentially just did everything I could to recover. I did like physical therapy, exercises, and not sit as much.
Yeah.
And I did eventually go back to work, but when I did, everything was different. The way my coworkers looked at me, the way my manager looked at me, they must have already decided that they need to kind of get rid of me in some way, shape, or form.
Mm.
And I think actually they thought I might have been a liability,
Oh,
a risk to them, because I think they were afraid that I would actually sue them for
Oh.
health issues.
okay.
And I think I actually had a case, especially because when they decided to let me go, they did something that's very unusual, which is they gave me a severance to leave, which my position wasn't like a executive position or anything where you would expect that. I was an analyst, a data analyst. Although it was like a more advanced position, it wasn't like the baseline type of position. It was still very uncommon for an analyst to get a severance. And I realized, why would they do that? Well, probably because they don't want me to go through the trouble of suing them. And
The severance, it was a paper that said you will not sue or something like
no,
that?
the severance is just money for being fired.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
It's a severance package, yeah. And well, the only reason I really ended up staying there as long as I did is because when you sign on to some companies, they offer you a bonus, and if you quit within a certain period of time, you have to pay back a certain amount of the bonus based on how much you stayed. And so I didn't want to have to pay back the bonus, and I said, okay, well, I'm just gonna continue just doing my best and see how it goes. And so because they fired me, I didn't have to pay back the bonus. They gave me a severance package, and I was like, yeah, this is amazing, great. So I left that job, and ever since then, I never worked at a corporate office ever again. And then that's when I started traveling more.
Oh,
and
nice.
and I essentially stayed in Phoenix until my rental contract expired. And then, actually, no, I didn't. I immediately traveled to Thailand for 1 month. And I thought, yeah, I'm gonna do a digital nomad thing, work remotely. So I brought my laptop and my camera because I was doing a lot of photography as well, to try to see if I can get some work done. But it just ended up being like a very long vacation.
Which
But
you needed.
yeah, 100%. But it still opened my eyes in many ways because for 1 month, I only stayed in Thailand, and I decided I just want to commit 1 month because I've done a lot of traveling in the past with my family, and we never stayed in one place for too long. And I hated that because I've seen so many places, like we go to a destination, we see a big monument or a church or a castle, and then we go to the next place. It's tiring, man. You don't feel that connection and stuff
Yeah,
like
and the
that.
people, you miss out on the local
Yeah.
life and the lifestyle, for
Yeah.
sure.
So I spent a month in Thailand. I stayed a few weeks in one city, stayed a few weeks in another city. I started in Bangkok, went up to Chiang Mai, went up even more to Pai, and then went all the way down south to the islands. Even did some scuba diving lessons, which was super nice. And I finished off my trip with the full moon party because they have like a big party every month for the full moon.
During the day or during the night?
During the night, obviously. So then I finished it off with that, and then I went back home. To be honest, my biggest regret there was that I didn't cancel my rental contract early and didn't get rid of all my stuff. And my regret was that I bought a round trip ticket. Because to be honest, if I got rid of my stuff and got out of my rental contract, I would have probably just stayed in Thailand more.
Yeah, and go with the flow.
Yeah, I had everything I needed, my laptop, my clothes and stuff like that, and that's it. But long story short, I went back to Phoenix and then reevaluated what I was going to do with my life. And I decided, okay, maybe Asia is a bit too different for me. And because I'm very familiar with Europe, with Romania, Romania is the easy option for me. Like, I have dual citizenship, so I don't have to deal with any immigration or visa things. I can stay as long as I want. So I started by doing a volunteer project for 1 month in like a smaller city, where I was just doing like self-development workshops with high school students in Romania. And I really liked it. I had a really great experience for 1 month that I did that. And when I finished it, I went to Bucharest. And that was the plan because I did my research. I was a data analyst, and so research is my thing. And I understood that Bucharest is a good option for me because like it's half the cost of living of Phoenix, where I grew up at the time. I'm not sure what it is now. And I knew, like, okay, my money that I have saved up is going to go much further there in Bucharest, and I can figure out I have more time to figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I went to Bucharest, and I stayed in a hostel, which had a board game night, which connected me with some locals that were staying in this unofficial co-living space that I mentioned before.
The one that inspired you to open your own
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. It was just some people that showed up to the game night that were living there. And I was looking for a place to stay like 1 month. And it's hard to find a place to stay 1 month because traditionally when you want to stay in an apartment or whatever in Romania, you have to sign a rental contract for one year, and it's a hassle. but I didn't want to stay in a hostel because hostels are not necessarily suitable for people who want to stay that length of time for many reasons. And they were telling me like, oh, I've been staying here for several months. This other guy was staying for 1 month. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'll check it out. Do you have availability? They said yes. I went to check it out. And so I moved there. And this place was essentially like, at the time, it had like 17 bedrooms or something like that.
No, quite big.
It was quite big, but a lot of those bedrooms were like in a garage type of environment, which had no natural light. So nobody was using those bedrooms. But for the rest of the building, like the bedrooms were actually pretty nice and they had natural light. And what I liked most about it was the community because there were all sorts of interesting people there. And I felt like I really like fit in. We had like Romanians that were staying there, but also people who were traveling, but slowly, right? Because they were staying usually for a month. And this place initially started as a project from this alternative school in Bucharest. And if I remember correctly, it's because they wanted something better than the dorms. And a big house like that is much better than the dorms. So I stayed there for a while until I discovered that they were going to close it down.
Oh, okay.
And when I learned about this, I was like, okay, what's my next move? You know what? I'll make my own co-living space.
Let's go.
So I had some family and friends in other parts of Romania, and my cousin offered to let me stay at her place in Cluj-Napoca for a month until I figured out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to stay. And I said, okay, I'm gonna go to Cluj, I'm gonna view properties, and I'm gonna open my own small-scale co-living space because the one I was at in Bucharest was too big for me to manage on my own. And I mentioned this, to the people who were staying there, and I said, this would be a great co-living space, but it's too much for me to do on my own. And right before I was supposed to leave Bucharest and go to Cluj, I discovered that two of the residents who were staying there, Arthur and Hugo, decided to make it into a co-living space. They took over the rental contract and they started making it into a more proper co-living space. And they did some renovations in the garage area and took out all the bedrooms, thank God, and turned it into a nice specialty cafe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so nice. And then they added like another floor on top, which used to be like a studio apartment, but they kind of extended the roof, and that was a co-working space.
Oh, wow.
So above the cafe, there was a space where you can actually work and focus as well. And it was a great setup because if you're living in this co-living space, then you could just go into the cafe, have a coffee, and work in the co-working space. And it's nice.
No dogs barking, right?
No. It was great. And it's a nice mix of being able to connect with people who are living there, but also being able to connect with locals in the city because they usually come there for coffee. You have some chit chat. You hang out with them they had this nice little terrace area, and they would have events and all that sort of stuff. And now that place is known as Vine 21, and it's still open. I regularly, I would go there. Like I went there many times. I spent quite a lot of time there. I would go back there all the time. But yeah, that's how I ended up in Cluj. I stayed with my cousin for a month, looked at some properties, and I think the last one that I looked at, I was like, I didn't have hope. I was like, this needs a lot of work. I don't know if it's gonna work. But I went to view it. I talked to the owner. He was a very cool, he wasn't old. He was like, I would say just a little bit older than me, maybe by 5 to 10 years, maybe 15, I don't know. But he had the right mindset. He did a lot of traveling. He's very open-minded and stuff like that. And he wasn't sentimentally attached to the space, which is a problem we had in our second location. I think the owners were very sentimentally attached to the building. And he wasn't. He just bought it because he had a bunch of money. He wanted to invest in real estate. So he bought this nice apartment that was really big, right in the center of town of Cluj. And Cluj is the most expensive city in Romania. So that's a big deal, especially for Romanians. And essentially that's how I ended up making my own co-living space in Cluj.
Wow. And yeah, you mentioned that you do so many things, right? You are into photography, you're into community management, board games, and I also know you are an English teacher as well.
Yeah.
How do you manage to do all of this and while keeping a very entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, so I think the way I look at it is kind of important to mention because I like to have several side hustles, is what I'd call it. So when I arrived in Bucharest, like I didn't have an online job or anything like that, and the main skill I had was being good at data analysis. And so the main software that I used was Microsoft Excel, and that's where I kind of started working remotely by doing like Microsoft Excel tutoring, which paid pretty well per hour because Excel can be kind of complicated to use and people need it for business. So the only problem though was that I had to work late at night. I was working with clients in the US and Brazil, which meant that I would stay up till 3 or something like that. And I decided to transition towards something else where I can work with clients who can work in better time zones. So I transitioned more to doing English teaching online. And now it's more like English coaching, but back then it was more like English teaching. There's a little bit of distinction because now it's much more higher level.
Higher level, yeah.
And I still do English coaching. And so I started doing some English teaching and stuff like that, getting an understanding of what it's like to be an English teacher. And over time, like I realized, okay, I do not want to do this in person because I will continue traveling and I want to continue being location independent. And back then, like it was very uncommon for people to teach English online. Like it was, people would ask me all the time, like, how do you do it online? That's weird.
You turn on the camera.
Yeah, I know, right?
To this website.
Yeah. So I started by teaching online. I started teaching English online for this Chinese company, and that taught me a lot about like what it's actually like to teach English, like what people are looking for. And I realized the main thing most people needed is speaking practice. And being a native speaker of English, a lot of people wanted to speak with me because they wanted to pick up on my accent. They wanted feedback on how to pronounce things. And they just wanted more practice, really. And so I kind of geared my teaching style towards this. So I don't do any grammar and I don't work with students who are beginner level, intermediate and advanced only, people who want to practice speaking and want to get feedback on how to pronounce things and how to express yourself and how to essentially have a good conversation. And I got really lucky when I started because when I moved to Romania, I wanted to just like learn Romanian and improve it because my Romanian was I had a very strong American accent and I wanted to improve it. So I would watch videos on YouTube from vloggers and people who would speak Romanian in the most natural way that I can find because I didn't want to listen to or watch movies. I didn't want to listen to the news, even some podcasts. They don't necessarily.
The inflection is different, no?
Yeah. It's not the best indication of what it's like to have a natural conversation. And I felt like I got more of that by watching vloggers because they would talk very naturally to the camera.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So when I arrived in Bucharest, I actually reached out to one of these vloggers just to have a coffee, just to go out for a drink. And so we connected, we had a drink, but that's it pretty much. But a few years later, maybe like a year later or something like that, he ended up making a mentorship program for Romanian programmers who wanted to increase their income by working with clients who are based in more expensive cities or countries like the US, Germany, or the UK. And some of them, or a lot of them, struggled with expressing themselves in English. So over time, he would just send me clients who were very qualified. And I had to figure out like a whole sales process and how to close and a program. So I developed a program to essentially give them results. And it worked really well. We had a great collaboration and I was getting them results. I think I should mention also, like I had experience in sales. I did an internship in sales.
And also it's part of another of your side hustles.
Yeah. So I did some sales. I had some sales experience. And so I implemented some of this experience in my English coaching as well, because in order to actually get some clients, you had to exercise your sales skills.
Of course.
You had to close. So I was able to do that for a while, and I was earning like really good rates from that because these clients were going through a program where they would increase their income. And because I can promise them or or I can help them achieve a higher income.
They don't mind. It's an investment for them.
Exactly. They don't mind paying more. It's all about the end result, like the goal that they're trying to achieve. But unfortunately, he ended up exiting from that business. And so my client pipeline kind of dried up. But luckily, over time, I've kind of got my own clients through word of mouth, through good referrals, and through other platforms where I can get clients. But it doesn't earn as much as it used to.
Okay.
And there are a lot of changes also that happened to the English teaching industry. Like a lot of my clients were from China before, and the Chinese government implemented some rules where you couldn't take lessons from someone that's not based in China and a bunch of stuff. But English teaching is just one of the things I did on the side. Another thing I did on the side was making curriculum for English teachers that they would use when they have their lessons. And I got inspiration from this when I was teaching at that Chinese company, because they would just have some slides with activities that they would do with their students. And it made it easy to teach, because then you can just ask your students to read off the slides, you'd correct them, and they can see how the words might need to be pronounced. And it takes a lot of the work out of preparation if you have these slides prepared already. So before I stopped teaching for that Chinese company, I actually downloaded a bunch of these and I used them when I taught my own clients. But they were not good. Like, they were very bad. So I started making my own because it was just so bad. I started making my own and I started uploading them on this website where other teachers can buy my curriculum. And I did that for a long time. I gave it a brand. I did some marketing, and it made me a little bit of money on the side as well. I started making sales from that. And I decided, okay, you know, this is actually not too bad. So I made an online course on how to teach English online, which it did okay as well. I wouldn't say it was like amazing, but it wasn't
It's
a waste of
just
time.
little things add up. And
Yeah, exactly. And it was a nice addition to my funnel, because people would see this course, they would understand how to teach in this way. And I gave them a small selection of some curriculum that I also made so they can see what it's like to use it. And then they would be much more likely to continue purchasing my products in the future as well. And I thought that was actually an interesting thing to do. And I decided, okay, maybe it'll be good if I make some more online courses as well. So I'm working on another one right now, on how to build and manage communities and co-living spaces. And it still needs a lot of work, but because I'm so busy with all this other stuff, I haven't been committing enough time.
Yeah, what's the name?
The name of the brand?
Yeah.
Co-living education.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to commit more time to that. But this co-living space is keeping me busy. Teaching English online is keeping me busy. And along with those, I'm also still doing sales. I kind of fill in the gaps with sales. I got lucky enough to find a remote sales job, which actually was kind of hard for me to find. But it's really nice because it gives me a lot of flexibility, and I'm able to just like fill in the gaps between my schedule. Like when I have meetings or when I have some free time, I just make some calls and do some sales. And I like it because it also exercises my sales skills. Like, you know what they say, if
Keep
you
it
don't,
sharp.
yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it.
And on your free time,
Yeah.
on top of this, you also stream on Twitch.
Yeah. So I stream on Twitch. So growing up in the suburbs, you know, being young and not being able to drive, you know, you'd sit at home a lot and play video games or
Yeah.
board games, which
Yeah.
is why I like board games a lot. And I started playing a lot of League of Legends back in college, but it was just taking up too much time. My grades were getting bad, so I gave it up at some point. But, you know, over time, new games came out and stuff like that. And one game came out recently-ish that's the same genre of game as League of Legends, but it's a little bit different, and it's mobile friendly. So I liked it because I'm a minimalist, and I didn't want to carry around any consoles or a computer where I had to have a strong graphics card or anything like that. And so I started playing this game called Pokemon Unite, and I just liked it so much. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to play any other game. I'm just going to play Pokemon Unite and just get good at this. And I had a lot of experience with playing games of this genre. So when the game first came out, I made an online course for that as well.
I saw.
On how to rank up in this game. It didn't make a lot of sales, and I kind of did it just to get more experience in making online courses. And it was good because I was able to improve the quality of my course significantly. Like if you look at my course on how to teach English online, like the production quality is not good. But then the one on Pokemon Unite is much, much better.
So the next one will be
Even better. Yeah, and so I said, okay, I'm going to stream on Twitch whenever I play this game. And it introduced a very interesting dynamic to me because now it's like you're very public with this hobby, which some people are very actually ashamed or embarrassed to play video games because in today's society, it's like, you're playing video games, you're wasting time, you're not doing something good with your life. But man, you do you. Like, life is short. Do what you enjoy as well. So when I have free time, and when I do play this game, I also stream directly from my phone. Like,
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I don't have any complicated equipment or anything like that. And for the longest time, I would only do it with my, like, if you look at the stream, it would mostly just be like the gameplay and music in the background. Like my microphone wasn't on and the camera was not on because it's from my phone. It's a lot of bandwidth and it's hard to do that. It heats up the phone and takes up more battery. And the idea was that, I'd get people who took my course to follow me on Twitch and grow my Twitch presence, or vice versa, to buy some of my course. But sales were not going very well with the course, so I eventually just put it up for free. And now the goal is just to kind of funnel that traffic from the course into my Twitch stream to get more followers over time.
Which is?
It's Elite Bro.
Okay.
But it's spelled I1337 Bro.
Okay, nice. So people can follow you.
Yeah, follow me. You can watch me wreck some noobs.
That's the whole point of playing video games, like humiliate specifically noobs.
No, but it's good. It's not that toxic like League of Legends would be because you cannot communicate with the enemy team.
Yeah.
Which is nice. You can communicate with your team through voice chat, and some people get tilted and say all sorts of crap. But
yeah, that's the way of life in video games.
Yeah, but I think the thing about video games is that it taps into some primal need or something primal of humans because back when humans were actually much more nomadic and before they would be domesticated by farming, they would hunt. And that's how they lived. They would hunt, and they would move their tribes, and they would follow these animals around, and that's where they would essentially survive. And when you hunt, you have to hunt as a team, as a pack. Each person has their role, and you got to exercise your reaction speed. You got to be very focused. And in today's society, there's not many things that we do that exercise these skills.
Oh, okay, so the focus, right?
Exactly.
Nice.
There are some things like maybe playing team-based competitive sports, like martial arts, even driving. There are a few things, but the thing that I noticed is that it's hard to practice these skills consistently, and it can also be very time-consuming or financially expensive.
Yeah, but that video game, you just have it there,
Yeah.
It's easy to...
Which is both good because it's easy and convenient, but it's bad because
it's convenient.
So the key is to find the right balance.
Of course, right. And you can make it a ritual, no? Because you told me you stream during the weekends, so it's kind of like, okay, I set some time apart from myself so I can have a nice time. And look, if people enjoy watching me or following me, then that's perfect.
Exactly.
And you do it for yourself, which is, I think, the right kind of mindset when approaching these kind of hobbies.
And because I do it and I stream whenever I do it, there's some form of accountability there.
Yeah, true, because then you need to do it for others.
Yeah, kind of. But it's just that anyone at any time can see how long I've played and how good I am or the state of mind that I might be in, if I play well or if I don't play well. And it's this open door policy, which is very interesting because when I'm streaming, anyone can just go to my stream and just write in the chat. And some people they get tilted, they go in my chat and then they trash on me for maybe
people are mean online.
Yeah, people like to take it out on streamers because they don't know who to blame or who to yell at. And when sometimes I don't play at my optimal, I don't play at my best, and so they go to my stream and then they take it out on me. But joke's on them, they're increasing my follower count.
Yeah, it's engagement, man.
It's engagement.
It's negative, but it's engagement.
Exactly. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah. I wanted to end up this episode by asking, what does co-living mean to you?
Co-living, yeah. So to me, I think what co-living means is having that sense of community and enabling people to pursue what's good for them. Because I think in today's society, there's too much focus on trying to be successful. let's say, whatever that might mean for anyone. And I feel like I had like an existential crisis because I pursued this definition of success that wasn't the right definition for me. And that definition included making money. And I was focused too much on that. I had health problems. And after I had that health problem, I was like, screw this. I'm making my own definition and that's what I'm going to follow. And the thing with co-living is that because you get so much diversity, a good co-living space will have diverse people with diverse perspectives. And what's important is that they also have this mentality of sharing spaces and being able to communicate with each other, because co-living is not for everyone. There are some people that have the right mindset for co-living, and then there are some people that don't.
And that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And on the other hand, also, there are some people that prefer certain types of co-livings and other types that are not for them. So each person also has to find the right co-living for them as well. So it goes both ways.
Thank you very much, Johnny. It was a pleasure. And this has been yet another episode of Colivers Club. So see you soon. Bye.
See ya.